Hi, this is Howie from Prime Your Pump, entertaining and actionable self-improvement. And this week's lesson is how to be assertive. And there are three types of behavior that we're going to talk about: assertive, passive, and aggressive. But assertive behavior is about how to make your needs known without hurting the rights of others. And people who are assertive stand up for themselves and aren't put down by aggressive people and don't step on passive people. More on that later. So what they do is they tactfully, justly, effectively express their needs and wants and opinions and feelings to other people without hurting the other people. So as an example, as a funny example, your father-in-law comes over to the house. He has a pastrami sandwich, and then he farts, okay, and it really, really stinks, all right, and he does this all the time, all right. So people who exhibit passive behavior are weak, like doormats, wouldn't say anything to the father and would just suck it up and suck it up and suck it up, and things would get worse and worse and worse, all right? People who exhibit aggressive behavior are hostile, bullies, pushy, and an example of this, and this was actually suggested by Rick, okay, who was certainly not aggressive, but it was his idea, of taking a video, okay, of your father-in-law farting and posting it on Facebook, and then make sure all his friends see it just to embarrass him. That would be aggressive behavior, all right? But assertive behavior, remember, is making your needs known without hurting the rights of others. Now, very frequently our personal belief systems really get in the way of us being assertive. So let me give you some examples that may surprise you of unassertive behavior. Or these are things maybe your mother and your father told you when you were little. Never be selfish. Never make a mistake. Okay? Never be emotional. Okay? Never second guess people. Never interrupt people. Never complain and never brag. And the list just goes on and on and on. And of course, the word never is never appropriate, all right? Because there are always exceptions. So sometimes you can put your needs above others. Sometimes you can make mistakes. Sometimes you can show your emotions and show your feelings. Sometimes you can ask for help. And believe it or not, sometimes you can actually say no. And just on the no side, I've mentioned it before, but when somebody asks me to pick them up at the airport, my answer is no. All right, because I don't want to get involved in the traffic. I say take a taxi here or an Uber or a Lyft here, and when you get here, then the party will start, all right? But I don't want to get caught in traffic, so my answer is no. And it's no not only to my wife and my daughter, okay? I mean, this is no to everybody. It's just not something I want to do, all right? And this is not aggressive behavior. This is assertive behavior. All right. On the positive side, assertive behavior leads to happiness and self-respect. And a lot of times when people are fearful or shy or passive or even angry, these are the consequence of not being assertive. These are frequently the consequences of being passive. So assertive behavior, just to repeat again because it's so important, involves stating what's on your mind. You're allowed to say what you're thinking. All right. I mean, I suppose unless it's you're going to go off and do a mass murder or something, but then I suppose you should tell your psychologist. Okay, asking for things, requesting favors, and generally insisting that your rights be respected by others. This is a hallmark of assertive behavior. Okay, demanding that you are an equal person and your rights should be respected. Stating negative feelings, such as complaints, okay, resentment, disagreement, frustrations, refusing the requests of other people, like the airport thing that I just talked about, or demonstrating positive feelings like joy, attraction, etc. Assertive people are able to do all these things. Passive people generally can't, and aggressive people do it in a way that generally turns other people off. Another thing assertive people do is question authority. Okay, and it's not just to question authority for the sake of questioning authority. It's questioning authority legitimately. And let me give you an example. Years ago, I had a student from China, and she was a very smart, intelligent young woman. She also happened to be very, very beautiful. And she was a face model, not a foot model, not a hand model, okay? Okay, not a face model, which is, that's the top flight, okay, modeling, okay, in China. Okay, China is where she came from. And one day she was in my office and we were talking, and I asked her, "What are you going to do, when you graduate?" And she said, "I'm going to marry a rich American who's going to take care of me and my family, all right, for the rest of our lives." And I said, "Whoa, is that what you want to do with your life? I mean, you're smart, okay? You have all these social skills. Why would you do that?" And this is a perfect example, because just because the authority structure says that's how she's supposed to give away her life, it doesn't mean you have to do that, all right? Now, look, this may be a whole cultural thing in China, but I'm just trying to make a point, all right? And the point is, just because authority says it so, doesn't mean it has to be so. Another thing is starting, participating in, and stopping conversations. I'm sure you've all been in the situation where somebody is going on and on and on and on, and it's like you're ready to shoot yourself. So it's okay to stop a situation. It's okay to say, "I heard you, all right? This is frustrating me or upsetting me a little bit now. Let's move on and talk about something else that we can both enjoy." Assertive people can do that. Also, they can resolve irritations before they actually become angry. And there are 4 steps to assertive behavior. And let's take them one at a time. Okay? So the step 1 is to identify the situation in which you exhibit, okay, passive or aggressive behavior. Identify the situation. Now, there may be many different kinds of situations, and we're going to pick at them one at a time, not all at once. All right? So you'll step 1, identify the situation where you're passive or aggressive. Okay? Let's deal with passive for right now. And I'm going to ask you 5 questions, all right? And you just write down whether your answer is yes to any of these questions. So the first question is, do you have difficulty saying no to other people? The second question is, do you see yourself as unassertive? The third question is, are you depressed? The fourth question is, do you have a lot of physical ailments? My neck hurts, my back hurts, my big toe hurts. And the last one is, do you complain a lot at work? And if you answer yes to any one of these questions, you probably have difficulty being an assertive person. All right? It's most likely that you are a passive person. And you'll continue to be an unassertive person until you decide to change your behavior. And what we're going to talk about now is how you actually go about changing your behavior. And this is in the second step. And it's preparing a contingency plan for when this particular type of situation occurs in which you're passive. So I'm going to teach you something about, and it's called an I message. Not this kind of I, but I like me. And an I message, this is the lowest level I message there is, and you can probably resolve about 20% of your passive issues with an I message. And this is how it works. I'm actually just going to read this from a little script now. So a typical format for an I message is, I feel, and you put your emotional state in, when the conditions that create your emotional state, because it makes me think that your emotional response to the other person's behavior, please, what would you like to see changed? So for an example, going back to that funny farting example with your father-in-law before, here's what it might sound like. I feel nauseous when you fart near proximity to me and your grandchildren, because it makes us feel like you don't think we have a good sense of smell, or you really don't just respect us. All right? Please give us notice in the future if you're going to fart, or perhaps you could even go outside and fart. That is an example of the lowest level I message, all right? And that probably is going to clean up about 20% of your problems. Step 3 is to practice giving okay, the contingency plan. So you practice the I message, and you practice it with a close friend who's going to cry, who's going to get angry, all the kinds of responses that you think might come back at you. And after a while, you'll kind of inure yourself to these kinds of responses. And my advice to you is write the I message on a 3x5 card, because okay, when you start to deliver it, if you see the other person getting angry or starting to cry, it's very likely you're going to bail and then just and stop doing it. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to finish it, put it back in your pocket, and now you've delivered it. And if they ask you, can I have the card? You say, no, it's all part of my effort to become a more assertive person and not a passive person, for example. So, and then of course the fourth step is actually to use the I message in the situation. And don't be surprised if you resolve 20 or 25% of your issues with this type of contingency plan. So in terms of use it or lose it, just make sure you follow the 4 steps we just talked about. In a passive behavior situation, like somebody farts in your house or smokes a cigar in your house, or demands that you do something and is bullying you and pushing you around. And when to use it, you use it whenever you find yourself acting passively or aggressively. That's when you're going to use it. And so what do you think? Try and think of a situation in which you were unassertive, all right, personally, and then think, what you would do differently after watching this video, and send us your comments. And that's it for this week. But until next week, remember, look at our other blog posts, sign up, and if you like it, share it, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. And until next time, prime your pump.